That's me. I think I was in second or third grade here. Um, I feel like I was always an artist as a kid. I was handcrafting Christmas cards, ornaments, all those things. Um, on top of crafting, my favorite thing to do was looking through my baby album because I was the only one that had one, and it was like pink, had ribbons, pearls, and frillies on the edge, and it was just like such an experience. And so, oh, sorry, let me not lean on this. Um, it was such an experience as a kid because I'm the youngest of six, and my mom had me at 43, and so there's a huge chunk of family history I missed out on that my siblings, five of them, I'm the last of six, I think I said that, I missed out on, and they knew so much about. And so also when you're like the youngest of six, you're kind of like the only child because everyone forgets about you. And so I spent a lot of my time like to myself and just like I feel like I was very adventurous as a kid. I would go outside randomly and just walk around the neighborhood. I'm always just like, I don't know. I feel like I always had like some type of, how do you say, like story that I followed or created out of the blue. And I like doing that through while looking at family albums, because a lot of the photos, they're of me, but there's like hands that I don't know who hands they belong to, or arms, or like faces are covered and stuff like that. And so I always like try to create this narrative like I was there, or try to even remember. And I'm looking at myself at 2 or 3 years old. As I got older, I found, after my parents passed away and lived through so many kinds of trauma and mourning and just moving through grief and all these other things, I found my mother's photo album I've never seen. And like I said, my mom had me at 43, so I really never saw her or my father at below 50 consciously. So I was so surprised to see like these photos of my mom at a young age, my dad at a young age, some people I recognize, family members I didn't know, but they were in this album. And there were so many people that looked like my grandmother, so many people that looked like my father, and so many people that looked like my mother. I was told that she had like 16 siblings, and she was the second oldest. And as I like looked through those images, I would ask people, do you know who this person is? How are they connected to my mom? What can you tell me about them? And then somehow we like stumble on not only their connection to my mother, their journey coming to America, and how she was someone that helped them through their transition. Like she was like a pillar for all these women and things like that. And outside of these images and stories that I heard, I started creating some collages, right? Some stories talk about the story of how my mom died spiritually, or my father passed away spiritually, or, you know, discovering family that you had a dream about. And it's perfect that the theme is vision, because growing up, that's a lot. That's prevalent in my household, or even in Haitian culture, and many African cultures. But yeah, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So after my mom died, it was said around the house that there's a spiritual reasoning how their deaths happened, and so close apart, and that was also me trying to understand. But yeah, we can get back to how I started though. That was just a rundown. But I started more, I think, at 2015? And that was like a new thing for me as a person, understanding what art is or conceptual art is. And so the first experience I had, I did like a really embarrassing public performance where I'm just talking and telling everybody the mystical story of how my parents died. And they're like, huh? And then I tried to learn. I was like, okay, I don't think they understood what I meant. Now I look crazy. And so I tried to put it in a way that was not so in your face. And this was like my first attempt. And as I practiced that, I started also addressing personal traumatic experiences I had as a kid. And this one was, I started with a body project, and this was me trying to like heal myself from sexual violence and negative racialized perceptions of the Black body. And when I did this first image, the response I got was that these images like resemble mugshots. And it was confusing because, again, I don't know how to navigate art school. I'm like, what? I don't get how that looks like a mugshot. And then as a person, oh, sorry, I'm tapping the microphone. You don't typically challenge your teachers or your professors, but this was a project where like I learned how to do that and also answer and learn, like figure out like, you know, like why do you think that way? Why is that your initial perspective or response when you see a Black figure in a white space? Like, why do you go this way? So I think I was killing it in school. This is when I started going digital, and then using more color, and, you know, kind of like collaging with color. And then I went interior. And I think this direction, I was blending that with the project. Not the project, but the idea of like growing in this household where it's like, you could tell it's a Haitian house. Like you got the red carpet, you got this, my mom, all my aunts have the same curtain. And it's like, this is, you know, whose house is this? But yeah, and so I continue to reimagine and understand the body as a form outside of shame, violence, and just like putting it in different spaces throughout that time. And, you know, for me, even personally, helped reshape my perspective on seeing my own body as well. And then, you know, it got me here. And this piece is called Rejoice. And unintentionally, like I took this photo and I left it, and then I came back, and then I was like, this looks like something, like, I can't remember what it looks like. What is it? What is it? What is it? And then I remembered at my mother's funeral, this is how my aunts would grieve, right, at the funeral. They were swaying their bodies, they were throwing themselves on the floor, they were just expressing and mourning through movement. And I was like, okay, but where else did I see it? And I was like, church. And I'm like, yeah, the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost. And then where else? And my mom, she practiced voodoo when I was a kid, but I didn't know, like they would be in a circle in the basement, and I was looking for like my rollerblades, and they're all wearing white and stuff. I almost cursed out, sorry. They're wearing white, and you see like a bunch of bottles and like corn hanging from the ceiling. And my grandma, when she would bless the house, would do, oh wait, where's the laser, Justin? Okay. She would have a cigarette in one hand and a bottle of rum in the other. And she would literally do like this. I don't know what song she would sing, but she would pour rum in every corner, take her cigarette, and then like, and I was just like, man, this lady crazy. But I was just like, okay. But I would like, these movements were so familiar to me in these different spaces that kind of like, there's like really thick tension, and at least in my household, between all these spaces. I would agree with Christianity and with Voodooism or Voodoo. And so I like kind of delved through that a little deeper. Yeah, and I continue seeing similarities in the photos that I started taking, and then the photos that I saw in my mother's album. And this is something like I didn't study like that. And then when I looked in, oh, I gotta show you the next one. When I saw it, I was like, oh shoot, curtain, carpet, and actually, I didn't know this was my mom. I was trying to figure out who this lady was for the longest time. Like, I was asking my sisters, they didn't know, my aunts didn't know, but my cousin, who's like, my mom was like a second mom to her, knew this was her. And I was like, oh shoot, she does kind of look like my sister. But mind you, everybody in that book looked like my mom. My grandma has really strong genes, you're gonna see soon. And so I continue to find like the similarities in each like photo in the album. And it's just like something really cool. And then I was like thinking about, I was, not obsessed. I found out about Deanna Lawson after I was making the work, and then I looked into her more, and then I became obsessed because I was like, wait, she's doing the same thing I'm doing, bringing up the conversation with like representation of the body in painting and photography and familiar spaces. And then Carrie James Marshall I was obsessed with as well. So this is Deanna Lawson. This is me, my mother, my brother, and my sister. And then these similarities. And this is Carrie James Marshall. And then this is some found images in my mother's album. I believe, I know that's my uncle. I don't know who this is, and I don't know who this is, but these are some like really fire photos. And then, everybody knows Kate Reeves. And then, found image in my mother's album, and it's like the kitchen, the living room, really great. LaToya Ruby Frazier and her grandmother, and my grandmother and my sister. Same pose. It's crazy. Almost similar floral pattern, color. And that's my mom on my right, your left, and her sister. But like years apart. Yeah, and then was just, I don't know, Black family photographs, albums are important, core representation of the Black family. They show us how foundational the album is and how much it informs Black identity across all cultures. Sorry, it's my favorite photo. I cropped it in. I wish I had put the full photo. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. But the full photo is, she's in a communion dress. And then if you zoom out, there's like, she's in space. And it's like a fire photo. It's so cool. It was I love it. That's my auntie, Louise. But yeah, right now I'm working on a project called GoFum, and it's a multi-layered project. This is like a 20-year project, in my opinion. But I'm 5 years in, so that's good. Um, and it has audio interviews of me in conversation with like the people that I guess were heavily impacted by my mother's like death. And it's like them telling their and her history through their perspective, on top of like found images and then portraits and collages. Whew, it's a lot of talking. Just kidding. There's a story about this photo. Well, there's two stories. One, when I made this, I was just like, I don't know, I was just working and this came out. And then I hadn't realized that the people covered are like the same amount. Y'all seen Heroes, the TV show? You know how he like makes the paintings and stuff like that? You can see the future. I feel like I did this here, unfortunately. It's funny, but it's not funny. You can laugh, but it's like a prediction. I remember I said my mom had 16 siblings, and now there's, let me see. Okay, give me 1 second. What's 9? 9 minus 16. There's that many left now. And so when my aunt passed away in 2021, I got to speak with my uncle in Haiti, because my mom passed away. I wasn't using telephone cards as a kid, but my parents were, and I don't know how to work that. And they weren't able to like have a funeral or be a part of the funeral when she passed away in 2005. But now like WhatsApp exists, so I was able to connect with my family easily. We were able to live stream the funeral and stuff like that. And I showed my uncle for the first time like the type of work that I made. And he somewhat is an archivist himself too. He's actually the youngest as well. And he was just telling me like, you know, his memory of my mom and how eerily this is similar to how many siblings are left out of them. And that's one story. Before, the second story is that my mom, she had a dream when she came here. She had a dream of her cousin in the center. And she kept having a dream that she ran into him in like the middle of a busy street, and you know, she just missed her cousin and stuff like that. And then she's walking down, I don't know where, but I'm gonna just assume Flatbush. She lived in Brooklyn, so I assume Flatbush. But she saw him. And so I just like had this vision of when people tell me these like stories and memories, like I have this vision of like what that moment would look like. Same as like when I was a kid, like these visions I had of like how this time was, what led up to this photo. And so that's one story, and I centered him. But this is, anyways, that's my grandma. My grandma is, I feel like this photo was like I don't know how to say. I had a complicated relationship with my grandmother, as all did my siblings. After my mom passed away, my aunt, who's Christian, who became Christian, newly Christian, I would watch her beg my mom to send my grandma back to Haiti. And I'm sitting next to my mom on her hospice bed, and I'm just like, what's going on here? Why is she on her knees? You know, like, just kidding. Sorry. I can never be serious. I'm so sorry. Oh, can you believe it's been 6 months since that meme? That's crazy. Anyways, sidetrack. But yeah, like she's like begging my mom to send her back to Haiti, and I'm just like, what grandma do? I can never be serious. And then And then after that, like I said, my mom was not so, like she wasn't in church. We went to Catholic church when I was younger, but it wasn't, it was a small time, a small moment. Maybe my siblings did more than I did, but after I was born, she was probably like, I'm tired to keep up with this. And so I haven't seen my mom in church at all. And so I'm just watching like these things happen and like trying to figure out what they mean and like what, really can't understand. But she's like begging my grandma to send, begging my mom to send my grandma back to Haiti. And then a couple months later, I find myself 2 benches, from what I can remember recount, I am placed 2 benches behind my mother in church, and in this Catholic church, and she's like praying. And it's been so long since I've seen her in this space. And, you know, I just, you know, as a kid, I'm like, why you let that lady, you know, get you here if you don't, you know, I never understood, I wonder if she did it out of fear or, you know, just a lot of questions I still have to this day. But yeah, but long story short, it was said that my grandmother, because she practiced, she was a voodoo priestess, that she sacrificed her kids, and she pretty much outlived a lot of them. And so that was like I would say rumor. No, I wouldn't say rumor. That was just the story the narrative we were told as kids. And she lived with us at the same time. So it was like, oh shoot, you killed my mom? And then I'll see you at breakfast. And then, right. And so that was like that. And then 9 months later, well, 3 months later, no, actually 6 months later, my sister had a dream. This is her first time having any kind of premonition of my mother in the passenger seat and my grandmother in the driver's seat of my sister's car. And she was scared. She never had anything like that. And then literally, I'll lie to you not, I'm at the top of the stairs. I'm getting ready to go to my cousin's house up the street because school is about to be start. And my sister is pushing my dad away from the door and telling him not to go. And my dad he grew up to try to become a priest. And then when he got here, he said, the funny thing was, he said, how come I make more in Haiti than here? And he said, I can't work to be a priest. Wrong reason to be a priest. Anyways. But this is just the idea that he was not really for religion. He loved, I guess, science more or something like that. So he didn't believe it. And so he was like laughing it off. Because him and my sister used to play fight a lot. So he's like, okay, you're kind of strong, but I gotta take your brother to first day of college. Like, you know, you're making this late. And then he asked me if I want to go, and I was like, no, I want to hang out with my cousin. And I usually go everywhere my dad goes. Like, I'm a daddy's girl. And I was like, actually, this time I'm gonna hang out with my cousin. And so I walk there, and then I think 10, 15 minutes later, he pulls up again and asks me if I want to go. I'm like, damn, I really feel bad, but I don't really want to go because summer is about to be over. And I remember that day was so hot. Like, it was so hot. It was so quiet. Like it was weirdly quiet. And then pavement is hot to touch. Like, you know, I'm like, we not even playing outside. We on the porch because it's hot as hell. And then I get a call. No, my cousin gets a call. They lock me outside. I don't know why. And they made me wait until my brother came to tell me that my dad had just died. And so that was like, what? Like really eerie and I don't know, weird. But a lot of this comes up in digging into my family story. Then through interviews, when I asked them, you know, when was the last time you had a dream about her, or when was the last time you had a dream about this person? And it's always revolving around my mother. Even after my father died, the same night, my uncle's wife had a dream of my mom yelling at her. to not take the kids, right? Because she didn't want them to, I guess she didn't want them to adopt us. But it was just like really like, what the heck is going on? And this lady is not, she doesn't do voodoo at all. She was just really spooked out, and she woke up in the middle of the night, and I was like sleeping on her couch. I feel like I'm rambling. But I was sleeping on the couch, and her clogs are just like, I'm like, why is she so mad? And she just leaves because she was very disturbed. And this really affected like my relationships with my family, because I have an aunt that's Christian, and I have an aunt that does voodoo, and then I have a grandmother that does voodoo. And it's just like, okay, like who do I trust? And we all live together. But yeah, that's the story behind my grandma. And this was me trying to like rekindle our relationship after 10 years or so. And I came to take her passport photos. And so like I asked her like really bluntly, why are they saying that you killed, my mom? And she was like, why would I kill my own child and stuff like that? I was like, I don't know. I guess let's move on. That's a good question. Why would you? And so silly. Yeah, when I'm nervous, I make a lot of silly jokes, so sorry. But yeah, and I took her pictures. And then a couple months later, she converted to Christianity, and literally, like, she passed away 2 weeks after. And so it's like, okay, how do I, work through this? Okay, it's a lot of work. Am I on time? I'm good? Okay. I feel like I'm the only one talking here. Sorry. Let me stop. Let me behave. That was a good joke though, right? But yeah, then I moved in with my godmother, and I started taking portraits of her and her friends from church, and interviews, and just try to see like how all this can like fit into each other. And then as I'm doing like these portraits, I'm also looking at these photos, and on the back of them are like messages and writings, but they're all in French and Creole, and I don't know how to read Creole, and so I asked for like translations. And this is a photo of my aunt, but it's a letter either for or from her husband that literally abandoned her and his kids in Haiti. And it just talks about like the cycle of life and how sweet and bitter it can be. I feel like it was from him, but it was just like the perfect description or like poem about my family dynamic. And that's my grandmother. This is at my grandmother's funeral. And this is my mother. I made this collage after an interview with my cousin. It was like not even an interview, in conversation with my cousin on like what she remembers about my mother's funeral. And bless you. Sorry. But she remembers about my mother's funeral, and then she told me a story that I've never heard before, and I feel like she kept to herself. But after my mom passed away, she had a dream that my mom was in the corner in chains, like her spirit was taken. And then another thing that made me think about where my mother is spiritually currently was when I asked my cousin whether my mom is in heaven, because again, I'm like hanging out with my Christian side of the family. And she says, she's like, do you know if she was baptized? And I was like, I don't know. Then she's like, I don't know. I'm like, oh shit, like what? Where is she? And so I just made her in this space where, where I'd like her to be, because she liked gardening, and she grew up in the countryside of Jacmel and stuff like that. So that's a collage I made of my mom. And then this is a collage of my father I made. This is like the story of how he passed away. And yeah, and this process is, it's another picture. The message on the back, it says, always look at this photo. And then it says her name, which is really cool. And so I feel like I'm on the right trajectory. And it's nice to be left like this book of like history and family and culture and conversations and messages that like, I don't know, keep me going. Thank you.